You're listening to the Smart Gets Paid podcast with me, Leah Niederthal. I help women land higher paying clients in their B2B consulting and coaching businesses, but I've never been a salesperson. My background is in corporate marketing, and when I started my first consulting business, I learned pretty quickly that it's about 1,000 times harder to sell your own stuff than it is to sell someone else's. So I taught myself how to do it, and I created a sales approach that feels comfortable, makes you feel confident, and that works consistently. And now I teach women how to land higher paying clients in their B2B consulting and coaching businesses. So whether your client contracts are $2,000 or $200,000, if you want to work with more of the clients you love, do more of the work you love, and get paid more than you ever imagined, then you're in the right place. Let's do it together. Welcome to Smart Gets Paid. Hey there, Leah here, and welcome to this episode. So as I was putting together this episode that you're going to hear today, I thought back to my time in Chicago. I lived in Chicago for 9 years after college, and I absolutely loved it. I still miss it sometimes. And I was thinking specifically back to a day in one of those earlier years when something happened that really impacted me. And I promise it's relevant to today's episode. You'll see. So there was a time during that period where I was in kind of a low place. I was in my 20s, it was the early 2000s. And I was walking down the street in Lakeview, which is a neighborhood where I lived, and I passed this used bookstore on Broadway. I'd gone in a few times, and I had actually picked up books there before, and it was actually one of my favorite places in the neighborhood. And on that Saturday, I remember that it was a gorgeous day, and they were having a sidewalk sale with all these books lined up on tables outside. And I don't know, maybe it was just the headspace where I was at that moment, but this one book seemed to just kind of leap off the table and into my hands. It was as if it was calling to me and I just had to pick it up. So I bought it, I took it home, and it was all about relationships between people and the dynamics between people's personalities. And it was actually one of the first, personal development books that I ever read. And if you know me, you know that I'm a personal development junkie. I'm always reading stuff to better understand myself and other people and why we do what we do and how we can be better versions of ourselves. And this book blew my mind. It was so eye-opening and really groundbreaking. And it actually changed the way I think about myself and other people and really a lot of things forever. The book was called I'm Okay, You're Okay. And do you know when it was written? 1967. 1967. I was reading it almost 40 years later. And I was reminded of that when I was putting together this episode because, as you're going to hear, the woman I'm talking to is afraid of something that I think a lot of women are worried about, that her stuff and what she teaches isn't new or groundbreaking or interesting enough. She's a leadership coach in tech companies, and you'll hear us talk through what she's feeling and reframe how she's thinking about her work. This session was a one-on-one coaching call that's part of my Pack Your Pipeline LinkedIn course. So I want to say a special thank you to this student for allowing me to share this conversation with you. Take a listen to our call, and at the end, I'll come back and share how you can apply a lesson from this call to your business. So how are you doing?
I'm good. I wrote down a few thoughts. I was up late last night, but I wanted to say I love the program. And I'm super excited to be part of the community. It's just been amazing. Honestly, as a fellow woman entrepreneur launching my business, I don't know how you do such a high touch program. I mean, it's just shocking. I've never done anything that even comes close.
Oh,
so
thanks.
I really appreciate that. I mean, it's just like I said, I've never done any program that had anything like this. So super awesome. So I love graduating my profile, and there's still a few things missing, but I'm happy with it.
Great.
So then on my profile, I haven't done an article yet. I just haven't had a chance, but also, I mean, this is kind of insane because I was an NPR reporter, but I still need a mind shift about my value as an expert. I'm like, that's insane. Whatever.
It's not though. That's the thing. It's not insane. That's exactly what happens when you go from working for somebody else where other external people tell you about your value to working for yourself where you have to come up with it on your own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
When you think about that, what comes up for you?
I guess what do I have to offer? I'm not treading new ground. I'm not I'm breaking any news. I'm why should what I say be valued? So it's just that kind of internal conversation I'm having.
Can I just offer a different way of saying what you just said?
Yeah.
Essentially, what I'm hearing is you're sort of judging yourself by the same metrics that you used to be judged as a reporter, a journalist, but you're not a journalist anymore.
Yeah.
You're doing this whole other thing, yet you're still sort of judging yourself according to the same measures.
Yeah. And there's imposter syndrome too. There's a lot of that in all
Yeah. What does that feel like for you?
Yeah. It's like they're going to find out I'm not, I'm like not who I say I am, or they're going to find out I'm, that I'm doing, or that I'm a fake. And it's not based on fact. It's just based on the, but it's my brain that's telling me that is not connected to like the feeling I have.
I know. Listen, imposter syndrome is real.
Yeah.
And there's a whole internet's worth of literature about it.
Yeah.
But the way that we can tackle this here is, well, we've already started doing it because that's why, we start with your headline, we start with your profile, because that's where that shift comes in of how you talk about your work, instead of
that's
like,
amazing. Yeah.
I go in and train people, versus really focusing on the value, because, and the important part about that is not just for your clients, it's for you.
Yeah.
To really say, wow, I do solve this huge problem.
Right. And that's helping a lot with that shift. Just like look at my profile, I'm like, oh, I'm really saying the value I bring. And that's been really helpful in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just like getting out of my way and just doing it.
Easier said than done, of course. But let's talk about the metrics or the measures that might apply to your work now.
Yeah.
When people work with you, when businesses work with you, companies work with you.
Yeah.
What do you see that tells you, oh my gosh, this is working?
Yeah. I mean, everything I've done, I've gotten rave reviews and incredible testimonials, and I've been paid a lot of money. I mean, not everyone, but I paid a lot of money to do it. So again, this is sort of, some of those are external, but like, I feel great. I feel confident. I get good reactions like in the room and after. So there are a lot of metrics that tell me what I'm doing is working and it's bringing a lot of value.
Yeah. And is one of the metrics that you have to break a new story? It has to be groundbreaking.
No,
I'm saying that facetiously, right? It's like,
no, I know. There's an element of that. Like, how am I being innovative? I call it like, what's my special sauce? Because people have done this before, but like, I do have a special sauce. And so is that innovative enough? So I guess that's the part of like, am I breaking new ground? Like, is what I have to say or do, like unique enough or innovative enough to be that expert?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. So the women that I work with, just like yourself, put a lot of pressure on themselves.
Yeah.
Right. I know this intimately because I put a tremendous amount of pressure on myself to, find a new way to do something, to be innovative, to be groundbreaking. The thing we have to remember is you're so close to it. It's not as novel to you, but to the people that you're working with and the companies that you're working with and the teams. Yeah. This is brand new. This is so innovative. This shift that you bring about in them is really groundbreaking for them. And so don't let your familiarity with it really sort of shade you or bias you against the fact that like, it's really cool for the people that you're working with. Yeah. The other thing that I remind myself is this sort of trying to be innovative and really pushing yourself and being really hard on yourself. I guess it was like illustrated in something that I came across a couple of years ago. Yeah. Are you familiar with the Miracle Morning? Okay. So this guy, Hal Elrod, wrote this book called The Miracle Morning. And he has this really incredible story. He was in a huge car accident and he, I think was going to die. And he spent a lot of time, maybe he was, in rehab to sort of learn how to walk and all these things. Right. And he came up with a way of sort of living that helped him recover, helped him become a productive member of society, helped him feel better, all these things, right? I'm sure I'm sort of telling the story poorly, but anyway, he dubbed that Miracle Morning and he wrote a book on it. He speaks about it. He makes like millions of dollars on it. Okay. Do you know what Miracle Morning really is? Do you know what his philosophy is?
Like daily affirmations or something like that?
No, it's wake up an hour earlier and do good things for yourself. Like work out or do some journaling or do some affirmations or whatever, right? Yeah. His intellectual property, right? His IP, his entire methodology is wake up an hour earlier. And when I read that book, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Yeah. You know, you have got to be kidding me. here I am beating my head against the wall, trying to find the most innovative way to teach women how to land higher paying consulting clients and whatever. And this guy makes millions of dollars from wake up an hour earlier. And I was like, you know what, Leah, it's okay to not be the most innovative all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how that sits with you, but
no,
it really is something
I love
for me.
That story. Well, one thing I sometimes should listen to what I teach other people, because sometimes you teach these things and they become sort of like, oh yeah. But like I tell people, there's an improv principle, but it applies to life. It's like in work, it's like be obvious. Don't be afraid to be obvious. And what I teach is that you think it's obvious, right? If it's obvious to other people, they'll feel smart. Like, oh, I was on the same page with someone, it's great. They obviously, they get it because I was thinking the same thing. And if you say something that you think is obvious, that's they don't think is obvious, it's like unique and you're adding new perspective and you come, and you're really adding value to them because you're presenting something they hadn't thought about or they didn't know. So like, I teach that. So it's good to have this conversation and be like, oh, I really should apply that to me.
Right. I mean, we're so good at solving other people's problems. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I agree. Yeah. Don't be afraid to be obvious. Don't be afraid to teach somebody something that they actually know how to file away.
Yeah.
Right. If you teach something so off the wall, they may not really have a place to put it, you know, and they may not be able to connect it to the concepts that they already know, understand, and use.
Yeah.
So remember Miracle Morning and kind to yourself. Give yourself a break.
Yeah. I'm going to hold on to that.
So there's a lot here, but if there's one thing I want you to take from this episode, it's this. Never forget that what you do and the way you do what you do can be groundbreaking for people. The story I told at the beginning about the book I quote unquote discovered 40 years later, that book may have been old news for a lot of people, but it was totally new to me. It happens even today when people ask me, oh, have you heard of so-and-so coach? And I say, no, I haven't heard of her. So don't ever doubt that something you might have said 100 times or 1,000 times or said to every single one of your clients, there are still people who are hearing it for the first time. And for those people, your words could be life-changing.